everybody, and welcome to another brand new edition of T and Friends Watch a Scary Movie. My name is T, and of course, we are talking scary movies. I appreciate everybody tuning in. New episodes generally go up Wednesday nights at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. But if you recall last week, I was having some technical difficulties. Unfortunately, I was not able to get an episode up for us. So, my loss is definitely your gain because we are doing 3 brand new episodes this week. Today is Tuesday the 22nd, and we have the first of my 2-part series with my good friend Tyler, who is joining me to talk about Spiral. Yes, and I know that we've already discussed Spiral here on the show, but I really enjoyed it so much, and I enjoyed getting to talk a little bit more of a spoiler-filled conversation with my good friend Tyler, and therefore, that's what we're going into. So if you've seen the previous episode, I was very careful not to spoil a lot of things for all of you, but this is going to have all the spoilers, so I advise you to not continue to listen if you have not seen Spiral as of yet. Again, me and my good friend Tyler Montanero of the Silver Screen Breakdown are going to spend a couple episodes talking it over. So that's coming up for you here in just a little bit. Want to remind you, though, again, new episodes generally go up every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the YouTube page. That's located at youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. Again, that's youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. Get subscribed. You'll get the alerts for when new episodes are going up on the YouTube page, as well as any other videos I choose to upload as well, too. And if you want to join our watch parties, which we do watch parties every Wednesday night after our brand new episodes and everything as well too, you want to go to our Facebook page and get subscribed to the Facebook group we have out there for the show as well. Because if you subscribe to the group, you will get all of the notifications for when we're doing watch parties. You can join in our fun conversations that we're having. It's always been a lot of fun. So I want to definitely make sure we're seeing some of y'all join the Facebook group. And you can join at facebook.com/groups/T Scary Movie. Again, that's facebook.com/groups/T Scary Movie. Yeah, make sure, get subscribed to the Facebook group so you can find out when we're doing our watch parties and any other fun conversations that we're having in the group as well too. Which I should remind, this week coming up here, we are starting our summer of horror. So I went and I picked out a few movies here that I thought really sell the whole summer time frame, because summer always seems to be a big relevant factor in a lot of horror movies. So tomorrow, June 23rd, we are going to be talking Piranha 3D, Sleepaway Camp 2, and I Know What You Did Last Summer. Yes, 3 fun classic summertime horror films that we're going to be talking together. And because it's the summer, we got a little bit more time, so we're going to be watching a lot more. At 6 tomorrow, we are going to be watching I Know What You Did Last Summer. So I'm going to be showing that at 6. And then following the new episode, starting at 9:15, we're going to be watching Piranha 3D and Sleepaway Camp 2 back to back. So make sure you tune in for the new episode, second of our 3 new episodes this week, tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. And then stick around, go to the Facebook page by 9:15 to get the link for our watch party. Well, folks, let's get right into it here. I got a chance to sit down with my good friend Tyler of the Silver Screen Breakdown. We had a very spoiler-filled conversation about Spiral from the Book of Saw. So, check it out and enjoy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and joining me today on this very special spoiler-filled, I need to say it again, folks. I already said it in the intro. I need to say it again. This is a spoiler-filled episode of the show tonight. If you have not seen Spiral, if you have not seen Jigsaw, you are absolutely going to get spoilers here. So this is your last chance to be told to turn out, to tune out, to turn it off, to go do something else, because otherwise the next 30 minutes are going to be chock full of spoilers. But I digress. Joining me
one of my really, really good friends here now, who has a phenomenal podcast that he's had me on before to talk movie goodness and everything here. But honestly, it's easier to let the man speak for himself. Folks, please welcome my good friend, Tyler. Tyler,
Hey
what's going
everybody,
on?
how's it going? Excited to be here.
Dude, I am stoked to have you on the show. Obviously, I've been on your show, the Silver Screen Breakdown, before with you and Zach. And
Yeah.
God, what did we talk about? Was it, holy shit, was it Detective Pikachu? Was it that long ago?
It might have been.
Holy
Yeah.
shit, man. That feels like a whole nother lifetime after the last year that we've had, man.
Yeah, it's been crazy. And the show, like we were struggling because we're trying to figure out like what are we even gonna do? Because the whole idea was like, hey, we'll talk news, we'll talk box office, and we'll like talk about whatever new movies out that week. Because like movies at this point were like, oh, every week. It's not like summer season anymore. It's just like there's
No.
always something dropping. So we were like, we'll just pick a movie, we'll talk about it every week, and that'll be like a good excuse to go to the theater. And then COVID happened, and it was like, okay, I guess we'll figure something out.
Oh,
So we just did
man.
like we would like make up double features and do all kinds of crazy stuff. We did a horror movie marathon that we kind of made up last year, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I tuned in for some of that, man. That was
Yeah.
so much fun.
So check it out. It's the Silver Screen Breakdown. A lot of fun, good episodes with you. We have some draft episodes which I'd love to do again because those were a real blast too. So good stuff on there.
Man, and being honest, like I always tell everybody who has inspired me in a way, you guys have definitely inspired me for this show as well too. Because 100% honest, like trying to work out like watch parties and shit like that was very over my head for being such a tech savvy guy.
Yeah.
And the way that y'all did it for the big one last year, like going between like all the different like platforms, but it's really like we're using Discord and keeping the chat going, man. Because I think I tuned in for House on Haunted Hill and God, I'm trying to think the other one that I caught like the tail end of. Because like I came back from a wedding and tuned in.
That was probably Killer Clowns from Outer Space, I think.
That sounds right.
Yeah. Oh, and it's so much fun too to like sit down with your friends and just be like, okay, what's our theme and what we were like, well, we got our theme was it has to take place in one night.
Okay.
So we were picking horror movies that take place in one night that are from varied decades because we didn't want it to all just be the same decade.
Yeah.
They had to be available on streaming. And when we put it all out there, including time with breaks allotted, it had to run 12 hours long. So it was really fun sitting there like and like trial and error and like, okay, what works here? When's like a good, so we were like, Killer Clown into like House on Haunted Hill. That's a good transition. You're going like from one to the other and trying to like keep it all flowing. It was a lot of fun.
I love that, man. I've been too afraid thus far because like we've been doing this since September of 2020 now, and it's now May, almost June of 2021. And I have yet to try for an all-nighter. Like we've done some TV show marathons, and I know I want to get one coming up. Like God, man, I'm 30. Fuck, how old am I now? 33. I'm 33 and I turned 34 in just a few months. And it's like, man, do I have all-nighters still in me at this point? We're gonna find out.
I turned 30 this October, like right before Halloween, which is weird.
Let me get some of them years, man. Let me take a few off, hand them over to you. Man. So, Tyler, you were joining me because number one, you have one of the best voices when it comes to talking movies out there that I trust.
Thank you.
I follow I follow your Twitter. I like a lot of your shit. I comment on a lot of your shit. You're definitely one of the people I engage with the most on social media because, like I said, I trust your opinion when it comes to movies and shit like that. And I knew coming up talking about Spiral, it was going to be hard to get number one, get people who have seen at least the majority of the series that were excited to actually see this new one, and we're gonna go and see it because I know we're still coming out of when it's now safer to go to the movie theaters, everything like that. Like it's been about a month and a half, maybe 2 months that people have slowly started going back in, but I know we're still in a time where folks are uncomfortable and So the moment that I knew that like I saw that you saw, I was like, yep, fuck yeah, that's happening. Tyler's got to get on the show.
I think I was like fully vaccinated like that week. And I was like, you know what? I'm doing it Thursday night. I got nothing going on. I don't have to work. I'm going to see Spiral.
Yeah.
First show. So yeah, I'm so glad to be able to go back to the movies. Oh, it's amazing.
How I am curious, like, were you the only person in theater? Were there at least a few other people? Was it packed? What was your experience like?
There was a handful of people there. It was certainly like pretty well attended for a Thursday night. It wasn't insane.
Yeah.
But then also like a month or two ago, into like the third week that it was out, I went to go see a Monday night showing of Godzilla versus Kong, and it was sold out.
No shit.
Every show was sold out that night before me, and I was like, oh, you know what? This one doesn't have that many. Let me go to this one. Sold out. So it's one of those things where people are going. That was before I was fully vaccinated, so I was uncomfortable the whole time because I was like, let me buy this seat kind of off the nobody's around me, I'll be okay. And then by the time the movie started, every seat was filled. Like I was like, oh man. So I ended up keeping my mask on the whole time, trying to be safe. But now it's like it's such a relief because I went to the movies a bunch of times over the last year, whenever things were open, because I want to support it and I want to be able to go and do that. And I would just like wear my mask the whole time and go when I could. And I'm in, a smaller town, so it's easy to get into screenings that have nobody there.
Yeah.
And it was a real relief watching Spiral. And that was the first movie where I was like, I don't have to worry about anything. I'm going to show up early. I'm going to watch all the previews. I'm going to get a little bit of that Nuvi action. And Maria Menounos.
Man, she's
and my
back.
popcorn.
Yeah.
I was like, let's do this. It was awesome. So I was in great mood for this. It felt like more so than the other ones. This felt like it was like, okay, this is exciting to be back seeing a Saw movie again in theaters.
Now I'm curious, like for you, what was any of it on purpose that was the first one back? Because like for me, kind of going off your story, like 2 months ago, my wife and I, first movie back in theaters, we went and saw Raya and the Lost Dragon. Because we were gonna watch it on Disney Plus and everything, but we got like 10 minutes into it. She's like, no, I want to go see this in theaters. And we're like, all right, we waited a few days and we went and saw it. And since then, I've been a lot. I am fully vaccinated too. But I do find it interesting because one topic that me and you kind of talked a little bit about on Twitter a while back is when HBO announced that they were going to do all of Warner's slate for 2021 coming to HBO Max and theaters at the same time. And I know we kind of had different opinions about it, but I will say that since they've started doing this, I have made sure that I've seen every movie I've been interested in theaters before playing it on HBO Max now.
Yeah. And I think whatever my opinion was in December when it announced has changed, because my stance now is that it's been really good for movie theaters.
Yeah.
Because people want to go see these movies in theaters, especially Godzilla versus Kong. People didn't want to watch that at home. People wanted to go to the theaters and see it. And then, so, they announced that in December, everyone's like, oh man, that's the death blow to theaters and the theatrical window. And I bought into it because I was like, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that people don't realize is that these movies they don't make as much money on these streaming services or on demand as they do in theaters. And that's why you see so many giant movies that you knew were going to be the big blockbusters from 2020 hold off until 2021 when it was safe. And then this HBO Max thing comes out and they go, okay, whole year. And I'm like, well, we're supposed to be like done by like summer with this whole year, really? And then as the year begins, you realize every single one of the top movies right now are Warner Brothers movies that are also available on HBO Max, yet are topping the box office because people want to go see them in theaters, not watch them at home. Maybe afterwards they'll check it out at home. And then like halfway through this year, like after a couple of these, HBO Max says, we're not doing that next year. And actually, we're going to make exclusive deals with theaters to show them. And I'm like, there you go. They don't release the numbers, but we can tell based on everything we have, this is not working out for the streaming service, but it is working out for the box office. And they're like, okay, full in on box office now. And that actually, it's crazy because weirdly enough, the ones that you know are going to be on HBO Max, you also know are definitely going to be in theaters. And that has helped keep in my mind what the Warner Brothers slate is, because every month I know they've got something coming out, and I know what that movie is every month because of their advertising for HBO Max, oddly enough. But I think it's working because people are going to the theaters to see stuff. People are going to the theaters to see Tom and Jerry.
Jesus, yeah, man.
Like,
it trips me out because isn't Godzilla versus Kong? Didn't they already say it is the highest grossing film in the MonsterVerse that started with Godzilla like a few years back?
I'd have to check that. I would not be surprised though, because it was really busy, and it was really busy in a time when it wasn't super safe yet. Like,
at all. Yeah.
No. And so, like I said, when I saw that movie, I was nervous watching it because I was half vaxxed, I think, and there was a lot of people there, and I was shocked at how many people were showing up on a weekday night. I was like, you know what? I'll go on a Monday. Nobody's going to be there on a Monday
at
night.
all.
And it was packed.
Woo.
So yeah, I'm glad though. It's exciting that people want to go to the movies again.
It really is. And I wondered what would feel the most normal to me, because like I've been a bunch of places. Like my wife and I have been to a bar at this point, and like, you know, we've gone to things here and there. I'm actually going to Double or Nothing because I know you're a wrestling fan too. I'm going to Double or Nothing in a week, and that'll be the biggest shit that I've been to since all this shit started now.
Yeah.
But man, going to a theater and being around people, that has easily been the most normal I have felt in over a year at this point now, man.
Yeah. And to do it safe. And I mean, I can't imagine how awesome it's going to be to go to Double or Nothing. I'm excited to go back. I think I was there was I had tickets for WrestleMania before it got canceled.
Same.
So I was planning on going to that.
Yeah.
And then the like first Thunderdome Raw was supposed to be in Pittsburgh, which is right near. And I was like,
you're going to that.
Yep. And then no, so it's crazy, but I'm excited to do that again. I'm a theater director. I was lucky enough that I got to direct the show during all this, which was crazy, but it was a really cool experience because seeing my students get to perform in front of an audience again and the audience reacting to it, I feel like it was such a cool thing for them. And so many people came up to me and they're like, man, I can't believe how much I miss doing this. Like,
there's going to be a boom for the theater industry, man. There is going to be a boom for that coming up here. Mm-hmm. And I'm so excited because I absolutely miss live theater. I miss musicals. I miss not stupidly enough. I love it. We started seeing the Denver Orchestra every year for Home Alone because they play, you know, the soundtrack to Home Alone during the watching of the film. And it's like, God damn it. Like, I miss all of this. The last concert I went to was Hanson. It was fucking Hanson, man. Like, let's go. Come on.
Yeah. Oh man.
But let's talk something scary. So I'm gonna start this very, very strategically, and we're gonna bring this in with 2017's Jigsaw. Mm-hmm. At the time, it had been 7 years since the quote unquote end of the Saw series. Now, for those of y'all that might not have seen Saw the Final Chapter, also known as Saw 3D and a million other titles, because it's so weird that there's a million titles to that movie.
Yeah.
If you don't remember, the quote unquote last Jigsaw apprentice, who was Detective Hoffman, was running a game against a impersonator who basically said he had been in a jigsaw trap and never had been, and this was their way of putting him through the paces on that. Meanwhile, Hoffman is trying to cover up his tracks because now folks are realizing that he is the Jigsaw apprentice. He's been behind what's been going on these last.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe there's a plot where he's trying to frame. He killed another cop who was onto his tail, and then he took his severed hand and was trying to plant fingerprints everywhere. But I believe there's a part in that video where someone's like, these are dead fingerprints, and we know that this isn't, someone's obviously planting it. Like, this doesn't work. And I think he does it after they tell you that he does it some more. So Detective Hoffman, not the sharpest tool in the shed.
He's so bad, and people love him. And don't get me wrong, he does some brutal shit in his entries that's like, okay, cool, I like that. And I like that. But oh my God, like, bro, I'm so glad you reminded me of that, because that is the time frame in which they say clearly these were post-mortem. And then he spends a movie like fingerprint here.
And then he's like
here.
still doing it. And it's like, we know that doesn't work. You can't do that anymore.
And you're literally killing anybody who might help you corroborate this at this point. So now you're just adding suspicion now, because now it's like, all right, now all these people that work with you are dead. You're it. You're the guy at this point now. But we leave Saw 7 with Dr. Lawrence, played by Carrie Elwes, coming back to, or is it Gordon? Dr. Gordon,
Dr. Lawrence Gordon.
There we go. Yeah. So Dr. Gordon returns after being away for 6 films, and basically is shown to be kind of another Jigsaw apprentice, but not really a Jigsaw apprentice. Basically, he's an insurance policy in case anything were to ever happen to Jill Tuck. And something definitely happened to Jill fucking Tuck.
Reverse bear trap.
Oh my God. And the fact that we spent 7 movies seeing we saw it, what, 2 times? I think 2 times how this trap didn't work. A third time.
Amanda and Hoffman.
Yeah. The apprentices are the ones who got in that fucking trap. And yet the only person who it finally takes out is Jill Tuck. So bad, but so good though, too. But so we fast forward 7 years, because here's the thing. Y'all have to understand, when it comes to movie studios, if they're making movies for cheap as shit, doesn't matter if the box office is diminishing. If they make a movie for $20 million and can make 60 off of that, they're going to make another one. And so Saw 3D, kind of getting us towards the end of the 3D boom as well. 7 years later, we get Jigsaw. And we're not going to break Jigsaw apart, but what you need to understand, if you haven't seen it, is that Jigsaw followed the timeless tradition of retconning the previous Saw films and adding more shit into it that we probably didn't need, that just convolutes it. But like, if you follow the series, you can trace it to where parts of the movie are taking place are taking place prior to Saw 1. Like, literally, parts of this film take place prior to Saw 1. Yeah. And then pretty much everything else is taking place. And I've said this before in the last few episodes of my show, but it is very poignant to mention it, because we don't necessarily know timeline-wise how quick or how close Saw 4, 5, 6, and 7 are after John Kramer's death in Saw 3. So all we know for sure about Jigsaw is that it takes place 10 years after Saw 3, because they very much point out that Jigsaw has been dead for 10 years, which would mean it's back during Saw 3. Right. And we leave the film not really having a connection to anything else. There's no Hoffman. There's no other like loose threads from the other films. Instead, we're now introduced to a third Jigsaw apprentice, who is Logan, the medic that screwed up John's charts. And it seems, God, between the freaking medical industry with fucking Jigsaw, man, he does not like those people. Dr. Gordon got it because he wasn't attentive. Logan got it because he wasn't attentive. And then in my favorite entry prior to
Gordon got it because Logan gave him the wrong file.
Right? It wasn't his fault.
It wasn't his fault.
Oh man. And I'm glad you reminded me that actually goes with that. That basically Dr. Gordon got fucked because of that guy now. He lost a goddamn leg because of this man.
And the next day he woke up and 9/11 happened.
Woo! Woo!
What a bad day.
Jesus Christ. That man had a horrible 15, 20 years. Goddamn, that's bad. So, presumably, and here's the thing. We've heard about Spiral for a bit because obviously they brought the series back. We heard Chris Rock had a genuine interest in it because he loves the series. He had this fresh idea. He pitched it to him. They brought back Darren Bozeman, who did a number of the really good entries in the Saw series.
Yeah, like a few of the early ones. Like he picked up with 2, I think, and then
he did 2, he did 3, and I think 4 as well, which is also one of the worst ones, but I'll give him credit for the good ones because 2 and 3 are the bomb.com. But we didn't know what to expect. All right. Because
really quick, I want to mention this. Did you hear how this movie ended up happening? Was it
the party thing that like Chris Rock talked to like an executive at a party? Is that what it was?
Yes, but before that, here's the setup.
Get it.
So Chris Rock does his movie. Was it the Top 5? What is the name of that movie?
Yeah, top 5. Yeah.
In that movie, where he's kind of playing like a character similar to himself, and it's all like kind of about the entertainment industry and stuff like that. There's a joke in the movie about Tyler Perry making a movie called Boo, which is like a Halloween movie.
Yes.
Then Lionsgate makes Boo a Madea Halloween. So Chris Rock goes up to an executive from Lionsgate and goes, "Are you going to cut me a check? Because I made up that movie and then you made it." And they said, fuck, good point. Why don't we have a meeting? You can pitch us something you want to do. He says, give me Saw. That's how this movie happens.
Holy shit. I have never heard about that before.
Yeah.
And that is fucking awesome. And now I have to go rewatch Top 5 to catch that. That's ridiculous. So this all happened literally because of a joke in a fucking movie.
Right. Yeah. Because Chris Rock made up a movie that ended up becoming a real movie after the fact as a joke.
Wow. Props to Chris fucking Rock on that now. Wow. And it's interesting because the Saw series, like I don't know how much of the listeners know about this, but a lot of the Saw series, and I say spinoffs, but more like inspired. A lot of folks don't know that a lot of these movies were not made to be Saw movies, like in the first place, and that a lot of spinoffs very much so were reminiscent of Saw films. Like, for example, a film I love talking about, The Collector, which is done by a few of the people behind the Saw series and stuff. That was developed as a Saw prequel that ultimately ended up being something completely separate. But it's like, okay, that fits the mold. But I know, I want to say it's Saw 2. Saw 2 for sure was not originally a Saw movie.
Right. And then they turned it into one.
Yeah. And then there's at least one other one that I know that wasn't originally a Saw movie as well, too. But I know Spiral as well. Like I'm so interested in the original pitch that he actually did for that film too, because I want to know how close to what we got on screen is what he initially was suggesting too, right?
Yeah.
So, and the thing is that, again, we're left with a lot of questions. I mean, Saw 7, Saw 3D, Saw the final chapter, ended very clearly to where, look, we can probably assume Dr. Gordon is not going to run any games. He's just there again as an insurance policy. Right. And Jigsaw left off like, sure, Logan's this new apprentice, but Logan's not Hoffman. Logan is not Amanda. Like, it seems like this guy made an honest to God mistake, but he has morality. He has a conscience and is putting this cop through it because of all the bullshit that, you know, that cop put him through and everything.
Now supposedly he does do the same game that he was put in. He does again to new people, but we never see that game happen.
Yep.
Right? Because but he does that just to frame another guy that he ends up killing.
Exactly.
And it seems like that was the whole plan, was a pretty much closed loop of like, I'm just trying to get this one guy.
Yeah. And so on some aspects, that makes it easy because then it's like, all right, well, there's nothing else to tie up. There's nothing else in Jigsaw's history, which I say that now when we get Saw 8, like this shit's going right out the fucking window at that point there. But for those who have not seen Spiral, because again, as I mentioned, this is a very spoiler heavy episode and everything. Spiral is the story of Detective Banks, who is now encountering a supposed Jigsaw copycat, to where a number of police officers are being targeted, supposedly due to crimes they've committed, and they're being put through the paces by somebody who's inspired by Jigsaw. Now, again, kind of like they did with Jigsaw and like even the sequels that came before that, it's not long before, again, we can confirm Jigsaw is dead. This is not taking place
the gimmick of Jigsaw is it's 10 years after his death, and yet he's back, and there's like video of him setting these things up. So it's like, how is he back?
Yeah.
And then it turns out he's not back. But an apprentice of his who was there the whole time is back. So that's the whole gimmick here. But this movie, nothing to do with any of it
at all. And I thought honestly that was both the best thing about it and also coincidentally the worst thing about it too, because if you came in, and again, I don't know how anybody could have, especially seeing the marketing, especially seeing everything we've been told. If you came in the Spiral expecting your traditional Saw film, you were going to be disappointed. There was no way you weren't going to come out of this being disappointed, because the biggest thing missing from this is the game. We do not have a traditional game being played here with anybody. And yes, you could argue, well, isn't Detective Banks playing a game? Not really, because the whole purpose of these games is that inevitably the person playing would have to make a choice that was going to affect their life at the end of all this. And yes, again, I know Detective Banks ends up having to make that choice, but not in the same way that everybody else prior to this had to make that choice, you know?
It's one of the most refreshing things about this movie, and one of the reasons why I liked it so much, though, is that it's in all of the other movies, even in Jigsaw, the whole bit is trying to do John Kramer again, trying to be like John Kramer. Whether or not you stuck his MO, it was a bunch of copycats who were either doing his bidding or something similar to what he was doing and trying to make it seem like they were John Kramer.
Yep.
This one is a Jigsaw copycat, but he's got a new puppet. He does things a little bit differently, and it's not the same guy as before. And it's refreshing. And then the other thing that we talked about on Twitter that is a huge part about it is, for once in this franchise, the movie is not about a generic white guy.
God, thank fucking God.
It's the first movie, because we had Glover in the first movie.
Yep.
And that was pretty much, you got the two guys in the bathroom who were white guys.
Yep.
And if you don't know who Carrie Ellis is, I could see you thinking, oh, this is a generic white guy.
Sure.
But it's much more his show. And you got a really good director there in Juan, and it's much more indie budget. And that first movie kind of fits a nice little thing. And then you starting with 2, going all the way up to Jigsaw, it is just a nonstop carousel of the most generic looking middle-aged white guys you've ever seen in your entire life. And they all have names like Mark, John, Paul, Scott, Matt. And it's like, who the fuck are any of these people?
Literally interchangeable.
They are so Jeff. Like, it's and none of them are distinct. None of them are played by people that have any kind of like gravitas. They're not very good actors. And the quality of the movies dips as when you get to Jigsaw 3D, that movie looks like shit.
It's terrible. And it's so interesting because I've said for years, Saw 6 is my favorite. I love the personal game in there for Easton is the guy going through the game there. Like, I love
That's the insurance guy, I think, right?
Yeah. And I loved how personal that story got, because it's like, okay, out of all these other fucking games where somebody screwed John over or somebody did something to cause issues, it's like, okay, this makes the most sense. This man and his company were pretty much directly responsible for John Kramer dying. Like, yes, Dr. Gordon played a big role in this, but Easton and his company are basically directly responsible for giving him a death sentence, which is another great James Wan movie. But I love that one. But you're absolutely right, to the point to where I joked about it. But back when Saw 5 came out, I couldn't tell you who was Hoffman or who was Strom, which is the guy that got crushed the end.
They look the same. They look exactly the same. It is so hard to tell the difference between them. Like, and I like that. I like that movie a lot because I like the game at the center of it.
Sure.
And again, probably the only, if I could name a single goddamn cast member from 5, it's Megan Good.
Oh, man.
That everybody else is generic and nobody. At least I know who she is and I recognize her, which is why, like, one of my favorite things about Spiral is that the actors at the center of it are distinguished, good actors with identities, and you recognize who they are.
Yes.
And so when it even falls back on all the dumb, silly tropes of like the flashback scene where Chris Rock's in a backwards hat and Samuel Jackson has a fake mustache and it looks like a bad community theater production of Saw. What? You don't care because it's Samuel Jackson and Chris Rock and they rule. So you're like, okay, I buy into it. Instead of like two guys that you've never heard of.
Ever.
You're never going to see them in another movie.
Nope.
And they're only in this franchise and you cannot, and they have everything about them is generic. So it becomes like the real indicator of the Saw movies is what was the trap? What was the game? What was happening? Not what was happening in the story, because it's all convoluted nonsense that's happening at the same time and crisscrossing. And this movie is really refreshing in the fact that it is good actors doing in a movie that I think looks so much better than the last, like, I would probably say since like 2 or 3, since Boseman's last movies, it looks so much better. It has a different look to it. You have a Jigsaw killer who's doing things a little bit differently than before. The voice is a little bit different. The puppets are different. The packaging is different. It feels more like a serial killer than just, and now it's John Kramer doing the same thing again, and we're being investigated by cops who are the same. Chris Rock has a very distinct character in this, and it's fun to follow him in this movie and see him act with people that are good. You even have an interesting police chief. It's a young woman instead of like just some generic guy. Like a couple of generic white guys are the people in traps. Those are the people who get killed. Everybody else is like interesting, distinguished looking people. And it makes such a big difference in this franchise because you just have not had that since the very beginning.
I love that you hit that too, because I found myself being more invested in the traps because of just the difference of people that were in them and everything. Like you had Boz at the beginning and the tongue trap and everything, and we don't know shit about him, but it's a cop. And the one thing we have to point out some of the funny things really quickly is the fact that like they said it's a line in there. Jigsaw didn't target cops, except for that fucking time he targeted a cop. Literally, Saw 2 is about him targeting a cop. The game is based around a fucking cop. Like,
yes,
that is.
It's a really weird line because it's like, now he never targeted a police precinct. He definitely targeted cops, but he never was like, I'm gonna target these cops.
Oh man.
which is a ballsy move.
Oh,
even more ballsy to put yourself on that force.
Which we'll get there. The traps also felt personal, and I and again, given the motivation of our killer, I love it because, again, with the exception of maybe Saw 6, I haven't felt that personal connection to all these traps because it's always about learning a lesson. Like, hey, you did this with this, so I'm teaching you not to do that shit anymore. And we lost that along the way because then it just became about what's goriest. Like, what can we do to hurt people more? It's like, that doesn't really make a lot of fucking sense. Like, I loved, I bring it up all the time, but Saw 6, that first trap, dude's in with the thing that's crushing his chest and you got to hold your breath and everything. That's such a personal trap to get now, man. Like, because the guy's trying to hold his breath to help his friend, like to help the other guy out. And it's like, well, you got to breathe at some point, so you're gonna kill this guy by you doing it so good. But the tongue trap, the finger traps, the fucking glass trap, it's all so personal. And the entire time I'm seeing it, it's like, okay, if we watch the old Saw movies, a lot of these people like will get out of these traps. Like if they do escape them, they're gonna escape with some injuries, but nothing that's like overly like, okay, your life is significantly changing the way you conduct yourself moving forward. All of these traps, if any of these people survived, which it's also interesting to point out that this might be the first Saw movie since ever, to be quite honest, to where nobody escapes a trap. Like every other Saw movie that we've had, somebody has gotten out of at least one trap for one reason or another. In this film, nobody escapes a trap. every single person in these traps dies a horrible death in it. And I found that interesting.
I also thought it was interesting that every time they ended up, a lot of them ended up going through with it and dying anyways. And it wasn't like the other ones where it was like it was inescapable. It just like they really didn't have a lot of time. And quite frankly, I don't think the killer wanted them to get away, but I also felt like it was possible. When that guy was like, if you bite down, if you jump off, you'll rip off your tongue, but you will be able to get away from this. Totally possible. But then the irony of like making sure that you see his tongue stay there before he gets hit by that bus. Like, and seeing the guy's fingers rip off before he dies. Like, it really felt like it wanted to show you like the thing happens to them anyways, even though they're going to end up dying from the trap aspect of it.
Yeah.
They are also going to like end up doing that. And I also love the shitty, dirty cop who has his fingers pulled off. And that line that's like, and you talk about personal, when you find out the twist of the guy, that this cop just shot this guy for no reason. And he says, like, you're never going to be able to do that again. Because you're either going to die or you're not going to have fingers. So you're never going to this is not going to happen again.
Yep. Like, it's not like you'll walk away and get a chip. No, like, it's one or the other, basically.
You are never going to shoot an innocent person again because you will not have fingers to pull the trigger. Not going to happen. Or you'll be dead. And it's awesome. And a part of me, it's, you know, as you get a little bit like more into it, but even when you get down to the end of the twist, it's also feels like I certainly don't like, yes, he's doing fucked up shit. But when you get to the twist at the end, I'm on that guy's side.
Yeah, it's hard not to take his back, especially considering what we're shown of all the people placed in the traps throughout the film.
Okay, folks, and that is going to do it for part 1 of my spoiler-filled conversation with Tyler Montanaro of the Silver Screen Breakdown, talking about Spiral from the Book of Saw. Again, love this movie so much. Definitely the best Saw movie in the franchise here, but this is only part 1. If you want to catch the second part of our conversation where we could talk everything, Spiral, Jigsaw, the rest of the series, then you got to tune back in this coming Thursday, June 24th, because the second episode is going up. The second of our 2-part conversation talking it is going up there. So make sure to tune in Thursday the 24th where you can listen to part 2 of this conversation. And of course, make sure you're coming back here tomorrow night, Wednesday the 23rd, for the first episode of our Summer of Horror series. We are talking Piranha 3D, Sleepaway Camp, and I Know What You Did Last Summer. Gonna be a great show. Excited to talk some fun summer horror with y'all there. But that is going to do it for us tonight. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube page. Again, that is youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. Get subscribed to get the notifications when the new episodes are going up. And check out some of our previous episodes. We have had some really, really good ones this year here. Make sure you are checking those out too. That's going to do it though, folks. My name is T. You had Tyler with me today as my friend, and we were talking some scary movies. Y'all stay scared.